So you can either close your eyes or you can, look ahead, whatever you want to do. But the way that we generally start the bone breathing is you can lay down. That's kind of the best way to do it. But if you're sitting up, you can still do it that way. And just kind of wiggle your toes a little bit. So you're aware of your toes. And then just imagine your bones in the toes, those little tiny digits. And begin to breathe when you take your in-breath. Imagine that you're breathing inside those first digits in your toes. And imagine with your breath, you're actually expanding the walls of those little tiny bones. And then when you breathe out, nice and slow, you contract the walls of those bones and you squeeze out the dirty, murky air. You squeeze out any congestion, any emotions that you've crystallized in the bones. And then again, just breathe into the bones there in the toes. And then when you breathe out, you squeeze the bones and just try to imagine that you're squeezing the literal bone and that you're not worrying about the muscles. You're not actually squeezing the muscles as you contract. So it might just be in your mind, in your imagination at first. But if you practice this over the course of a couple of weeks, you will actually start to feel your bones expanding and contracting without any of the muscles. So just breathing in through the toes and expanding to the next set of bones in the feet. So wherever the bones are articulating with each other, begin to breathe that breath into those bones and expand the walls of those bones. Squeezing out those bones, squeezing out any dark, murky, congested color from the bones. It's almost like you're squeezing and tonifying. You're just releasing. Breathing into the bones in the feet and actually begin to breathe into the heel as well. So all of those bones that make up the whole entire foot, just breathing into the inside of those bones. Squeezing the walls, flushing out any toxins locked into those bones. Noticing if you feel any energy vibrating or anything interesting, heat, cold, anything interesting in your feet at all. Letting go of any stress or strain in the muscles or the tendons. And just breathing into your entire foot as one skeletal conglomeration. So breathing in and breathing out and just expanding and cleansing your feet. And just noticing all of your particular bones because they're alive, they're moving, they're transferring calcium, and there's all these actions that are taking place in your bones. So just imagining if you can feel the weight and the size and just get inside your bones. And then on the next in-breath, breathe up through the ankles and then breathe into your tibia and fibula. So imagine that you're breathing into the inside of those bones all the way up to the knee joint. And imagining the size and shape of those bones. When you breathe out, just squeezing the walls of those bones. Squeezing out the matrix. And then when you breathe in, just expanding, imagining that those walls of your bones are expanding as you breathe in and revitalizing them with fresh chi energy. Taking a nice deep cleansing breath and squeezing out those bones. Noticing if you feel any kind of lightness in your legs, in your lower legs. And breathing up through the toes, all the way up through the ankles, into the tibia and the fibula, and all the way up into the knee joint, the patella. If you have any tension in your knees, just breathing your breath into that area. Imagine that it's swimming around like water, cleansing in between the bones and the articulation of the knee. Flushing out any toxins, any fibrotic tissue, any inflammation, any arthritic feeling. Just cleansing out the knee joint, flushing out of any dirty, murky air, running it all the way down through the legs and through the feet. And you can allow that dirty, murky air to just go down into the earth. So just imagine that you're detoxing it like fertilizer, you're just releasing it into the earth. And then on your next in-breath, you're breathing up through the toes, that fresh, revitalizing oxygen and chi, all the way up through the kneecap and into that largest bone in your body, the femur. So imagine the very inside of your leg, that big, heavy bone, articulating at the hip, the ball and socket joint, articulating at the knee. And just noticing, seeing if you can imagine the size and the weight of that bone and breathing on the inside of that bone. Breathing in that fresh chi, making that fresh, those white blood cells, revitalizing the marrow. Bringing that sense of lightness, of sparkling, fresh chi energy. And then just squeezing out the entire femur bone, squeezing the matrix of the bone, squeezing out any toxins that are stuck or stagnant or crystallized there. Just releasing out any stuckness, any emotional charges in the bones. The bones are that deepest part of us. They're literally the deepest part. The marrow inside is that deepest part of us. And it is related, it's the yin energy. It's related with the blood. It's related with the kidneys, the ears, the sex organs. So all of all those systems are related. All those organs are related, and they require that deep yin attention. So breathing up through the femur bones into the hips, and bringing that breath all the way into the flat bones of the hips and the pelvic girdle. So your entire pelvis is breathing from the inside. Pubic bone, the hips, the sacrum, that cap. Breathing into those flat bones from the inside. Filling up your entire pelvis from the inside of the bones themselves with fresh light, fresh revitalizing chi, and then squeezing the walls as you breathe out, squeezing the matrix of any tensions, any traumas, letting go of any deep-seated tensions in the sacrum. It's often where we carry terror. So the kidneys tend to hold on to fear, but the sacrum holds on to terror. So just breathing on the inside of the sacrum. And then breathing out and squeezing the walls of the sacrum, flushing out any tension, any dirty, murky air. Imagine it just streaming down your legs, through the center of your legs, through the bones, down through the feet, down through the toes, into the earth. Letting it all go, because you really don't need it. It's really not helping you. So allowing yourself to be that hollow bone and to drink in that fresh, revitalizing, energizing chi is actually doing you so much more good. So bringing up that breath through the toes, through the femur, through the hip sockets, the ball and socket joints, the sacrum. Then begin to bring the breath up the vertebrae, up the lumbar vertebrae, and up the mid-back, all the way up the spine to the base of the neck. So your entire spine is breathing from the inside, opening, expanding the walls of the bones, and then squeezing the spine, squeezing out any dirty, murky air. You're only as young as your spine, my teachers say. So the cat-cow motion that we do in yoga, we do in Qigong, is so important. And they say with Kundalini, that energy, that snake energy is coiled at the base of the spine, which is essentially the sacrum and the first chakra. So as we keep our spine nice and flexible and allow for there to be a flushing of all the stagnation, we allow for there to be this ability of the snake, or we call it the little dragon, to ascend. And we want it to join up with, the third eye. We want it to join up with the crystal palace in the center of the brain. So we are going in between the vertebrae with the breath. We're flushing out any stagnation, any dirty, murky air, any tensions, any pains that we hold in the back. We're flushing that out. And all the nerves that come out of the spine are innervating the organs. So just releasing anything that's been caught and stuck, maybe even years. We're expanding the walls, giving more spaciousness to the vertebrae. Bringing the breath all the way through the toes, up through the legs, up through the pelvic girdle, up through the spine, and begin to breathe the breath out into the rib cage. So you're actually breathing into the insides of those flat, curved bones of the ribs. So you might feel the ribs expanding as your breath opens up, but you're also breathing on the very, very inside of those thinner rib bones, where they articulate with the spine, breathing from there into the entire expanse of the ribs from the inside. Squeezing out any tension there. Breathing as deep as you can into your lungs and into your ribs themselves. Squeezing out any tensions from the ribs themselves. Revitalizing the chi, revitalizing the marrow inside the ribs as well. Squeezing out the ribs, flushing out any stuck energy, any tension from being able to breathe fully. Our breath is life, so the more that we can free up our breath, the more freedom we have. Breathing up through the ribs and breathing all the way to the front of the attachment of the ribs, which is the sternum, right in the front of the chest. My teacher, Mantak Chia, talks about the sternum being a place where hatred can crystallize, and that it's almost like you have to, use knuckles and tools to actually get it out of the sternum itself. You have to just break up those crystals of emotional charge in the sternum. Right in front of the heart. So any of that emotional stuff that we harbor gets stuck there often. You can kind of tap on it. You can rub it with your knuckles. It can be pretty painful. So breathing into the sternum on the inside of that flat bone. Breathe into the heart. And when this is freed up too, the heart energy can expand more. We have that beautiful torus of energy that expands from the heart. And some people, we feel it's so bright and brilliant and beautiful and shining, and it just expands and extends into a room way before they, even step into the room. And, it's like everything is freed up. So that's what we want to do. We want to be in that place of ever expanding love and compassion. That heart, organ is the emperor or the empress of the entire body, where we hear God, where we hear divine, voice. So breathing into the sternum and freeing up any tension that we're holding there. Squeezing out the sternum, squeezing out the ribs, the spine, just wringing it out, letting all of that energy flow down through the feet into the earth. You might notice some heat in different parts of your body. It can be all kinds of sensations that you feel. So just bringing the breath up again through the legs, through the spine, through the sternum, all the way up into the collarbones. And to the scapula, those flat bones on the back, the shoulder girdle. So breathing into the collarbones, breathing into the ball and socket joint of the shoulders, and breathing into the scapula on your back. A lot of people hold tension in the scapula. So just breathing into any areas of tension you might have there, and then just squeezing those bones from the inside, flushing out, flushing down the back, down the body, down the legs, down the feet, through the toes, squeezing out. Again, breathing, filling up the scapula from the inside, filling up the collarbones, filling up the ball and socket joint with fresh, revitalizing chi, and then squeezing the walls, flushing out any tensions that you've held there, maybe for years. And then on your next in-breath, breathing up through the feet, up through the spine, up through the shoulders, and all the way down into the humerus of the arm. So breathing into that central bone in your arm, both of your arms, and expanding the walls of that funny bone. Squeezing from the inside without the muscles, squeezing the humerus bone, squeezing, and you can actually let that energy squeeze out through the arm, down the fingers. Breathing into the humerus and extending to the next set of bones, the radius and the ulna that articulate at the elbow. Breathing into the middle of those bones, expanding the walls of the matrix, helping all those processes that are taking place, the living, breathing bones inside our body. Squeezing out the radius and the ulna. Expanding the walls of those bones, and then moving to the wrist bones and moving into the first bones of the wrist articulation with the radius and the ulna. Breathing into those bones and expanding the walls. Squeezing the bones, letting it stream out the fingers. And then breathing into the next set of bones, into the hands. So the entire hand is breathing from the inside. And then squeezing the hand bones from the inside, squeezing them out of any dirty, murky air, letting it stream out the fingertips. And on your next in-breath, breathing into the fingers themselves, breathing into the bones, the digits, the phalanges. Breathing into the inside of those bones. You may even feel some more energy in your hands as you do this because it really activates the energy from the palms when you breathe into the bones here. And you really feel how you become that channel. As your energy becomes clear and clean, you can actually channel energy in such a good, beautiful way. So breathing into the fingertips and then squeezing out those bones. Breathing all the way up the arms, all the way up the legs, all the way up the spine, all the way up into the neck. A lot of people have neck tensions and issues. Also happens to be our throat chakra, where we speak what's in our heart. So breathing up into those bones, breathing in between the vertebrae of the spine of the neck, all the way up into the atlas, the attachment to the skull. Breathing out, squeezing the vertebrae, clearing any dirty, murky air from the spine, from the neck. Squeezing out, flushing out. Breathing up into the neck, and then breathing up into the skull. So you're going to breathe your breath all the way up into that round, flat skull bone. So your entire skull is breathing fresh, revitalizing chi into the center, where it's producing marrow, where it's transferring chemicals and minerals. So breathing into the skull, breathing into those sutures that are attaching, the bone, those movable joints that attach the skull sections together. Breathing out, flushing out any toxins in the skull. We think, we stress, we hold so much of it in our brain, and the skull is right there, and it's crystallizing things. So just allow the marrow inside the skull bone to expand and fortify and cleanse with this fresh, revitalizing chi. And then on your next in-breath, breathe that fresh energy into the sphenoid bone, which is the bat wing shaped bone behind the eyes. It articulates at the temple, and it sits right behind the eyes, and it actually has a little hole in the middle where it holds the pituitary. So just breathing into that bone behind the eyes and relaxing all the muscles that tend to be stressed as well. Breathing into the muscles, relaxing, breathing into the bone itself, the inside of the sphenoid bone. Flushing out with the out breath, draining out any dirty, murky air, letting it flow out through the feet, through the fingertips. Again, nice deep in breath to the very center of the brain, that beautiful bat wing bone. Easing out any tension around the bone, around the attachment of muscle to that bone, of tendon. And then breathing into the nose and breathing into the jaw. So now this place where many people also carry quite a bit of tension in the jawbone, the mandible, breathing into those muscles, breathing into the bone itself, and even into the outgrowth of bone, which is the teeth. So imagine you're breathing on the inside of those teeth, which are alive, which are moving micro amounts of blood that are innervated, just breathing fresh, revitalizing chi that is going in and sweeping out toxins, stagnant energy, crystallized emotion. So now you're breathing into your entire skeletal system, from your toes all the way to your teeth. So imagine you are just bones, and you are literally breathing on the inside of your bones, in the walls of the bones, in the marrow of the bones, in that deepest, most profound part of you physically. And imagine that as you breathe in, all of the cells of the marrow, all the white blood cells are just excited and rejuvenating and filling up with that expanding light and power and excitement. And then when you breathe out, you're just flushing any remaining stagnation, any remaining toxins in the body, flushing it out of the bones, back into the earth where it's utilized, it's recycled. It creates this beautiful connection, just like when we breathe in the oxygen of plants, we breathe out the carbon dioxide, and that's their food. So we have this esoteric connection with the earth that it's not always visible, but it's very tangible, especially when we open up to it. So just breathing from the inside as a whole entire skeletal system, breathing in fresh, revitalizing chi that's actually expanding the walls of the bones and contracting the walls of the bones as you breathe out. Feeling that sense of expansion. Letting go, maybe moving your head a little bit, moving your fingers a little bit, moving your spine a little bit if you need to. Feeling more freedom in your body. If there's any tension still in your body, breathe a little bit more into that area. Just take some nice, deep, energizing sighs, breaths and sighs. And then just gently opening your eyes when you're ready and giving yourself a little rub, a little love, a little gentleness. You might feel really energized.
That was so beautiful.
Good, right? Oh, I feel good.